Today, Perfect Games suddenly released a new game, P5X, Persona 5 Strikers, Twilight Shadows. Repeat after me, P5 is the best. As the first game in the Persona series to land on mobile phones, P5X not only reproduces the gameplay and visuals, but also hides a lot of information. We will break it down frame by frame for you. This PV is as trendy as the previous games in the Persona series. Let's see what new details it has. The scene opens with us in front of a 2D animation. A man who appears to be the protagonist is dozing off. The sound of bubbles underwater can be heard in his ears. As the man wakes up, the camera quickly cuts to the source of the bubbles above his head. A whale passes over the man's head. Whales in the ocean represent the subconscious in psychology, which happens to be the foundation of the Persona series, based on Jungian psychology. After the whale that covered the entire screen swims by, the scene where the man is located is now fully visible. For fans familiar with the Persona series, their hearts must be racing. It's the Velvet Room. In the Persona series, every guest in the Velvet Room is in a different setting. In this game, the protagonist is in what appears to be a meeting room with a round table. Then another familiar face from the Persona series in the room starts speaking, bringing tears to the eyes of longtime players. After a black screen transition, a scene that appears to be a memory appears in front of the audience. The protagonist and the mascot's figure pass by another female character at a crossroads. The familiar BGM "Life Will Change" begins to play, and the crossroads change into the X symbol representing this game. Based on the scene, the dialogue of the female character and the mascot, the X in the title may represent intertwined but different destinies. However, before any clear explanations are given, the scene quickly switches to daily life. Throughout the PV, we can see a strong sense of reproduction in both the visuals and the character designs, which are almost identical to Persona 5. The character modeling, however, has been greatly improved, departing from the simplistic modeling of Persona 5 to a more refined style. The dialogue options inherited from the Persona series tradition also appear, although not shown in this section of the PV. Although not shown in the PV, the traditional 5-dimensional system of the Persona series is highly likely to be preserved in this game. In addition to paying homage to the visuals and systems, P5X also features NPCs from Persona 5, such as the weapon shop owner seen in the PV. With the appearance of this character, we can reasonably guess that the timeline of this game is before or after the events of Persona 5, or even parallel to them. There are some differences as well. The UI of the mobile map is from the original P5 game, but it has an hourglass symbol in the top right corner. Since the symbol on its left is currency, the hourglass may be a consumable item that resets something or a stamina limit unique to mobile games. However, all of this is just speculation, until we can actually experience the game. It is worth mentioning another difference in the dialogue. The name of the school where the protagonist is located is Kokatsu. The P series is fond of wordplay, such as the name of the school where the protagonist of P5 is located, Shujin, which is a pun on the Japanese word for prisoner. This confirms the identity of the protagonist as a prisoner of fate. Kokatsu in this game can be written in Japanese as Kokatsu, and is commonly written using the kanji kujie, which means exhaustion in Japanese. But what is it that is running out or drying up? The PV doesn't give an answer to that yet. We can keep watching to find out more. In the following scenes, we can see something new and different. In P5, the characters are seen petting a cat, while in P5X, they are petting an owl instead. The mascot of this game, Lupul, is an owl with a hooded cape and a portrait of its face. It looks a bit like Kamen Rider Ghost. The owl is also worth pondering. Each game in the P series revolves around a specific theme, and desire may be the source of power for the characters in P5X. It is worth noting that the Phantom Thieves in P5 rebelled against the inflated desires of others. Is this an Easter egg left by the production team? It's possible, but it's also possible that the theme of desire is simply a recurring theme in the P series. Only the developers know for sure. However, it's clear that P5X has some interesting differences from its predecessor, both in terms of its UI and its story elements. It will be exciting to see how these differences play out in the full game. According to the subsequent scenes, the P series' excellent social community development system should be retained. Unfortunately, some UI elements in the game have been removed or modified, perhaps to adapt to mobile devices. For example, fishing and baseball gameplay have been altered, and the iconic time indicator in the top left corner has been removed. Although this kind of trade-off can be understood, it is still somewhat regrettable. After switching to the rooftop scene, the dialogue box of the owl mascot, Louvre, appears and mentions the terms cognition and shadow. The term shadow refers to the enemies in the Persona series, while Cognition Space is the primary location for leveling up and earning money for the protagonist and his team in Persona 5. As a potential long-term mobile game, we can speculate that the Cognition Space might serve as a repeatable resource dungeon. As the scene changes, we see the appearance of the boss, Yukihiro Kamoshida. The dialogue and visuals presented here are also faithful to the original, with phrases such as Twisted Desires in the dialogue and a close-up shot of the Steel Hearts app, demonstrating the deep connections between Persona 5 and this game. It seems like the nostalgia of veteran players is being stirred up once again. As the scene changes, our boss, Kunikazu Okumura, appears. Here, we also see highly authentic dialogue and visuals, such as the emphasis on Twisted Desires in the dialogue and the close-up of the Heart-Stealing app in the visuals, both of which highlight the strong connection between P5 and P5X. From this, we can also infer that the main gameplay of P5X is likely to be consistent with P5. This is actually a bold move because the charm of the P-series largely comes from the main storyline. Given the excellent works of the past, P5X for mobile devices also needs to provide a compelling main storyline experience to satisfy the series fans. According to the PP, there are also places where they play with references. The full-body modeling of the mascot owl confirms our previous speculation. Its image is indeed modeled after Kamen Rider Ghost, and its movements imitate Kamen Rider Black. Its dialogue in this scene is transforming. What will I transform into? A car. Wait, in P5, the mascot Morgana can also transform into a car. It's a reference. Similarly, the personality mask of the owl, which is full of references, is also playing with references. After a series of close-ups, an SD Gundam image appears on the screen, which is also a reference. Since the gameplay of daily life in P5X is a replica of P5, what about the battle and dungeon parts? The English on the hall screen reads Kyuchi Stadium, which translates to Kinue Sports Center. Kinue is the name of the boss, Kinue Yuzuki. The Sports Center hints at Kinue's profession, which is likely to be related to sports. The first boss in P5, Kamoshida, is also a sports teacher, so Kinue Yuzuki is likely to be the first boss in P5X as a tribute. Since there is loss, there will also be gain. In a classic chant from the P-series, the protagonist's initial Persona mask image was born, with a pair of short guns in its hands paying tribute to the protagonist of P5. The game retains the classic turn-based system, gun attacks, attribute restraint mechanism, single-person execution, and overall attack of the P-series, as well as the highly praised switch attack in P5R. It can be seen that the development team is very concerned about the restoration and optimization of the game's combat experience. After the scene where the characters head towards the light, the biggest Easter egg of the entire PV appears. The grand entrance of the P5 protagonist! It's all paying tribute. Overall, the information in this P5X PV is really extensive, and I can feel the sense of restoration just by looking at these images. It is evident that the development team understands the highlights of the P-series and wants to give players an immersive experience of being a Japanese high school student. However, there are still some information that was not revealed in the PV, such as where the game's monetization points are and how resources are obtained. What is the relationship between P5X and P5? These things will have to be experienced to find out, but we can make some bold guesses. P-series protagonists often have the ability to change masks, so masks may be the paid points that players need to obtain. The long-term updated main storyline will also be the driving force for players to continue playing. As the first P-series mobile game, I'm really looking forward to experiencing it. With the core gameplay preserved, will P5X be able to use its explosive background to once again ignite the P5 craze and become #1? Hurry up and release it. Perfect!